Hello, this is Earl Stevenson. Welcome to the Shawn Newman podcast.
The Shawn Newman podcast tonight, or this morning. We're on different sides of the world. I'm joined by Earl Stevenson. So first off, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me, Shawn.
So where on earth are you right now?
Well, I'm actually in Indonesia. I'm on a little island called Gili Trawangan. I came out here in January mid-February, and was planning on just coming out for a month. I landed in Vietnam in Ho Chi Minh, and then met up with a couple friends that were already out here. And then we were there, Vietnam, for a couple weeks, and then we went to Cambodia for a couple weeks. And then I got here on St. Patrick's Day, and basically pretty much that was about the last boat here. Not really realizing this was going to be as big a deal as it is. and I kind of just there was one plane, a couple planes leaving right when I kind of got here, but I just sort of thought I'd wait, maybe it would calm down or something, and it just got nuttier and nuttier. So
Have you been able to work or do anything to kind of keep yourself busy, or?
well, fortunately it's pretty cheap living out here, so that's a good thing. And I'm playing here and there, couple places here, but nothing too much. Just mostly, when I get inspired, try to write a song and that kind of thing. Sometimes making music and songwriting takes a lot of boredom too.
Well, and extreme circumstances. I'm sure you got lots of interesting things to write about sitting on that side of the planet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's pretty wild experience for me. I was here, we got here in about a week after Ramadan started, which is the Muslim holiday. So that's like a 40-day holiday. And I live right by the mosque, and there's honestly chanting, and it's mellowed out now because Ramadan's over. But during Ramadan, probably 10 times a day for an hour at a time, there's chanting and music and singing, and you can hear it all over the entire island. So it's pretty bizarre.
What do you think of that side of the world now that you've traveled to different countries and bounced around? You mentioned Vietnam, Cambodia. What sticks out to you other than, Ramadan?
Well, it's very beautiful place and very beautiful people, and I would, yeah, just, and the sense of community here. I guess I'm on a little island, so that's a little more natural than a big city. But the kids, they just run freely, and and there's no. It's small enough community that everyone kind of trusts each other and knows each other, and if you did something stupid here, you'd have to pay for it because everyone on the island would know, and everyone would, you want to keep your reputation good because you don't, you want to keep your family situation healthy and everything. So it's kind of works. It governs itself a little bit in that regard. And yeah, everyone's really pleasant and nice, and which is it's interesting because where I am right now is usually very popular with tourism and super busy. And right now it's pretty well a ghost town. So it's kind of my experience of this island, I'm sure, will be a lot different than most people's.
Yeah, what have you been doing every day?
Well, I've been playing music and scuba diving here and there, and swimming, and being bored a little bit, and
Do you have any
that
idea when
kind
you're
of thing.
do you have any idea when you're getting back?
Well, I'm gonna go to the bigger island, Lombok, in the next couple days, and I'm gonna scooter down to the airport and just get a better idea of like, because I don't want to book a ticket and then it be canceled and be out the money and stuff like that. So I'm going to go to the airport and show them, be like, what's the probability of me getting on this plane, and is it all going to work out fine, or is it last minute? Are they going to decide that it's canceled? I'd like to talk to someone face to face just to get a better idea. But I was hoping to get back, by in a couple weeks, ideally.
Have you been talking to your parents at all?
Oh yeah, it's pretty. With the video technology and stuff, you can stay pretty connected in that regard.
Yeah, it's pretty. This is pretty. It's almost surreal to sit here and have a conversation and know you're sitting somewhere else, stranded.
Yeah,
this is a new one for me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, a new one for me too. Like, I guess coronavirus is a new one for everyone.
Well, isn't that the truth?
Yeah. Kind of a bizarre thing,
What made you decide that part of the world this time, Earl? I know from my understanding is you've been all over Canada, all over different parts of the world at different times. So what made you choose that part, Indonesia, this time?
Yeah, like I've been, North America, I've been to Costa Rica, I've been to Europe. Partly this has been on my mind, this area of the world, for a while. And since three of my friends were down here, I figured it'd be a good time to go. And, I thought I was going to escape a little bit of the winter, but not the rest of the winter.
Yeah, well, I could think of probably worse places to be held up in, that's for sure.
Yeah, most definitely.
Have you had any issues then, regardless of COVID, just not being able to get home? Has that been the biggest thing, or have you noticed anything on a local level?
Like I said, it's pretty isolated here, so no one's really wearing masks. It just kind of is what it is. But like, if you do leave, like now, and the restrictions have loosened up a bit in the last 3 weeks or whatever. But like for a while there, it was if you left the island, then you'd have to come back and quarantine for 2 weeks or whatever. So it's been kind of a deal where, it's not in your best interest to really leave. And, and getting here on the airplane, it was right when it was everything was kind of beginning to happen, and the airport was pretty hectic. They had me asking me a lot of questions, not sure if they were going to let me in and blah, blah, blah. And to be honest, I had quite a wheezy kind of chat. Like, it'll be interesting when I get back, to see if at some point maybe I did have it. I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm sure everyone's wondering that. But like I said, I had a respiratory, I've never really had that big of a respiratory issue. But it went away, obviously. But, I don't know. It's hard to say.
It's pretty,
But they were looking me up and down and thinking I was sweating pretty hard. So
it's crazy to think that once again, the planet can be so big and so small that the same thing that's affecting this side of the world could be on some tiny island in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, no, it's bizarre. And I don't know if this would have happened 10 years ago. Like, I don't know what would have happened. Like, if the shutdown would have been on the global level like this, or what they would have done. Like, it's the having the connection with our social media and everything that kind of allowed everyone to get on the same page to some degree. It's like be kind of hard to coordinate something like this without all that interconnectivity with something like that.
It's almost unnerving to think about, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Well, I mean, because you even go 10 years back, you're right. You go 10 years back and chances are, it's talked about a lot, but with everybody having news right to their fingertip every single minute of the day, it is extremely, extremely hard to escape.
Absolutely. if you're not careful, you know, you can kind of put a lot of fear inside of yourself by, you know, watching too much news. And like, you got to stay informed, but at some point it's kind of just like an overwhelming amount of, you know, and it's funny now, you go on Facebook or whatever, and it's become a political, it's should have just stayed a health crisis or whatever, but now it's politics in the mix, you know. All of a sudden you don't want to wear a mask, you like Trump somehow, or, you know, or you like, and it's become this hugely political thing, and you're just like, well, I thought this was a health crisis. Like, I don't know how all these, or like, and then people with conspiracy theories too, you know, like you, at some point you're just like, I don't know what's up, what's down. I have no idea what to believe anymore, you know?
Well, I think a lot of people in the beginning, I think for a lot of us, we're like, the unknown was fearful. So you paid attention.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You tried to get as much
Absolutely.
information. Then after like week, I don't know, and for everybody it's a little different, but whether it was week 3, week 4, you hit a point and you're like, and I just don't care anymore. Like I'm doing everything I possibly can here to not touch everything in the world and try and spread this thing. I don't need to hear about, like you say, if I don't wear a mask, I'm a Trump supporter. I'm, you know, the political thing right now is just like absolutely crazy
Insane
on this side. It's hard. Honestly, you might as well just keep your phone off, because the stuff being talked about on there at times is just leads you down a rabbit hole you don't want to go down.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And then with all those riots too, like, or like all the protesting, which, you know, people have a million opinions about that. Like, I'm not about to speak my opinion about it, because there'll be half the world will be telling you to shut up and the other half of the world will be cheering you on. But to me, it's just, yeah, it's insane. It's wild. You know, I'm kind of glad I'm over here while all this is going down, because it seems, you know, you look at the United States right now and you're like, is it the end of the world right now? Like, what's going on, man? It's crazy.
And yet you wonder if, you know, I always say the crazy thing about social media is it can make it seem like the end of the world is here. Because
Well,
you
that's the
take
thing
one
too.
picture and it blows up to 1 million views or whatever, and then you think the entire world is like that, when
Yeah,
literally that's
exactly.
one spot. Don't get me wrong. The riots are happening. The COVID is happening. It is like the perfect storm of events going on right now, and parts of the world are not in good places. But here in little old Lloydminster, yeah, things are
Same old.
same old, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I was watching your audition tape or your audition video they had on Canadian Idol. And I damn near cried myself laughing, like pissed myself laughing, because you were talking about working for Bob's Backhoe. And I said, man, if that
Yeah.
ain't just the most Lloydminster thing in the world.
Yeah, I know. It's funny stuff.
Well, and I mean, just Lloyd right now, no. Lloyd's, I mean, we got weird things going on with, you know, restaurants now back opening up, but they're only allowed 50% and things like that are just, it's just different. That's all it is. It's just
Yeah.
a different world now.
Yeah. You know, I kind of hope that people don't wear masks for the rest of our lives. That seems kind of disturbing to me, but
You
like,
know,
obviously,
oh, sorry.
do it. Oh, sorry. You know, whatever's necessary for the time being, but I hope people don't get some phobia and they're scared of each other for the rest of time.
I love history. I got a degree in history, and I've read a little bit. I can't say I'm sitting here, I'm the world leading expert, but I've read a bunch on the Spanish flu, and I had on my history professor, that was probably 2 months ago now, to talk about some of the previous epidemics or pandemics that have gone through the world. And at times they social distance, at times they limited gatherings, at times they had signs saying wear a mask or you're going to be thrown in jail. Like, this is
So
this
it's
has
not
come before.
something
I don't
totally
think
new.
no, I don't, it's just the social media interconnectedness. The fact we can do this is almost to the point of like, it hurts my brain.
Yeah, I guess the global scale of this is really the most fascinating thing about it.
Yeah, well, and just how quickly everything shut down, right? Like how quickly everybody was like, whoa, we gotta, right? Like, boom, like snap a
Yeah.
finger and boom. And if you weren't shutting down, then you were pretty much ostracized for not shutting down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
But I mean, we can sit here and chat about this for the next 2 hours. What I really wanted to have you on was to talk a little bit about you, Earl, and your journey with music. I know for Lloydminster, people around my age and older, maybe even a touch younger, all remember when you competed on Canadian Idol. But I thought maybe we just start a little bit before that because, gee, I don't remember you being a huge music star in high school by any stretch of the imagination. So maybe you could just
No,
start us off back then.
sure. So like I always sang growing up, but not really publicly, and I would sing for my sisters and they thought I was pretty good and this and that, and and really enjoyed music and stuff like that, and always, and I liked performing a little bit. Like we would be on the ski bus growing up, and that the older guys would give me quarters to do Urkel impressions and things like that.
Can we get an Urkel impression?
If you want to do the Steve Urkel dance, all you got to do is hitch up your pants, bend your knees, and stick out your pelvis. I'm telling you, baby, it's better than Elvis.
God, does that bring back memories?
And I'd go, Laura, are you wearing a bra today? Pretty weird, I gotta say. But
oh God, that's good.
But yeah, so like I started really getting into like folk musicians a lot, kind of around the age of 19 and that. And then it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks in a weird way. Like my friends were playing guitars a little bit, and I started noodling around a little bit, and I went to Mexico, and it sort of hit me like a ton of bricks that I wanted to start doing it. And then it was funny, I picked up and then started. The songwriting aspect of it came pretty naturally to me. And the nice thing about creating folk songs is, you can start with 3 chords, and you can be busy for a couple of years on just, learning 5 chords, and then just changing the combinations and the timing a little bit. And you can keep yourself pretty busy for the first 3-4 years of your kind of journey. And then slowly but surely you learn a few, more things just to keep it kind of fresh and creative for yourself. And then the songwriting part of it kind of came pretty naturally to me. And it was almost easier in a way to make my own songs than it was to learn other ones. So, and it was bizarre. Like I started doing it and got quite a passion for it and had a lot of energy toward it. And like, it was no more than a year and a half after I started that I was on the show. So it just kind of happened out of nowhere.
So like up until that point, you weren't even playing the guitar?
No, I actually got kicked out of band.
No way.
Mr. Homans was like, "Hey man, you got to stop this." Because I guess I just didn't care about, like, for me, like there's got to be some character and color behind what you're doing, or else it's just kind of like you might as well, if you're not getting something out of it creatively, then there's not really a point. And then once I just seen the big picture of what it could be, it kind of changed my complete look on it.
So you mentioned it hit you like a ton of bricks. So do you remember like the time or place you were at when all of a sudden you just picked up a guitar and you're like, gee, why haven't I done this before?
Yeah, well, like I was in Yalepa in Mexico, and it was my 21st birthday, and I actually smoked a doobie for the first time. and then it all kind of came to me in a wave, like, wow, this would be really fun to do. And then I was just listening to Neil Young, and I was on the beach, and I just everything kind of came together that day in a weird way. That's a little romantic, but it I would say that kind of was something that made me be like, wow, this has got to be something you can do with this, you know?
It's funny. I mentioned before we started that I was talking with Charles Clausen, and he said he was working with you one summer and you were singing to the radio, and he looked over and he's like, holy crap, this guy can sing. I don't think he has any idea he can sing.
Yeah. Well, it was something I remember thinking in my head that'd be about the most terrifying thing to do ever would be to sing in front of people, you know?
So how did you get over that? Because, I mean, you end up, when you're on Canadian Idol, you have the most flavor out of anyone that goes on there and sings. Like, you're like, look at this guy go. He doesn't have a care in the world.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of one of those things where it's like you have no choice. And I often attribute it to how it was snowboarding too. Like, you know, if you're going to go up to the jump and try the trick, there becomes a point where you can't turn back, and you're only going to hurt yourself if you don't fully commit. So it's like, and that's how it was for me with music. It's like it gets to a point that the pressure is so kind of built up that the only direction to go is fully committed. And, you know, so it's like almost a survival tactic at some point.
Geez, when you bring up going down the hill and trying to hit a jump, I only ever tried 2. I only lasted 2 jumps. I never committed to either, and I damn near killed myself on both of them.
Yeah, no, like that's the thing. It's a do or die situation, and snowboarding, there was a bit of that uncertainty in me. I think the music suited me more. Like I was more comfortable in that high pressure situation than I was in a lot of other things being in that situation, you know. And for me, it's like doing a podcast like this or something's almost more nerve wracking in a way because I don't know the path, you know. But with music, there's this point to this point, and all you got to do is stay focused in, and you know, it's kind of like, you know, the path, and you want to be aware enough and available enough to everyone that you can be spontaneous too, you know, and invite your surroundings in, but it's kind of clear what you have to do, you know. It's almost like, and like honestly, after some performances, like I'll get off stage and barely even remember what happened, and it'll seem like I was only up there for like 2 minutes or whatever, and I've been up there for like 45 minutes or whatever. And it just, because there's so much energy going on.
Yeah, well,
so it's a pretty fun experience.
I think when you talk about podcasting, that's what I enjoy about it, is the unknown. I have, you know, sitting here across from you, I go, well, we talked about COVID for a bit, and maybe that was a little bit, you know, you could kind of see that being on 2 different parts of the world, you can kind of see that. But where it goes from here, I mean, I got a general idea, but I don't like to plan it out too much, because the nervousness that you talk about, I get exactly the same, but I love that. I come out of this conversation, I'll have a high, and I'll go conquer the world for the day.
Yeah, no, it's a good, you know, people should learn to, you know, do something that they're afraid of. And it's always, like you said, there's a high afterwards. There's a confidence booster about it. There's something healthy about it. Like it can be, you know, nerve wracking too, but like it's part of life. And if you want to make something of your life, whatever that may be, you have to face your fears. So, you know, it's always a good thing to do, even though sometimes you'd rather just kind of hide away, you know?
Well, I think you fear the unknown and the things you haven't experienced, but the only way to really grow is to go experience those things, because then you're like, oh yeah, no, I've done that. Well, and you can just understand another chunk of the world, or another chunk of performing or singing or whatever it is that you're a little nervous to go do. Because once you've done it, there's a little comfortability in
comfort. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And the comfort, oh man, comfort is a tough one because, yeah, we all want to sit inside and be nice and warm, and you don't accomplish anything doing that.
No, and eventually it doesn't feel good either. Never taking risks and always choosing the comfortable path, eventually kind of leaves you a little bit feeling, I don't know, like you should have challenged yourself a little more. So,
100%.
yeah.
What made you decide to go to Canadian Idol? Or you were just you're like, I'm in the mode now. I've figured out this. I've started playing a little bit. I've been playing for, like you say, a year and a half, and all of a sudden the Canadian Idol tryouts come in Edmonton. Are you just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go do this, or did you have to be convinced?
Well, it was funny because I was kind of like, I don't know about that kind of deal. And then I was in the West Edmonton Mall, and I was there with my mom and my cousin, and they're like, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, kind of thing. So then I went and sat there in the lineup and was just kind of like, well, whatever. And then it just kept going and going. It was like, I waited in the line. That was the first line. Then, like, there's about 4 auditions you have to do before you even go in front of the TV. Like that, what people think is the first audition is actually like the 4th or something audition.
So did you
And
sing the
then it
same
just kept
song?
going and going. It was insane.
Did you sing the same song every edition then for the first 4?
They asked me to sing like 3 different songs. So I sang Heard It Through the Grapevine and a Toots and the Maytals song, and maybe only those 2. Yeah.
So you had songs picked out that you're like, listen, yeah, I can do Heard It Through the Grapevine. I can nail this one down. Like, did you have that in your head then? Because if you weren't planning, I guess in my brain I would have been like, okay, you got the drive up to Edmonton. You're thinking, okay, I'm going to sing this song. I'm going to do this. But what you're saying is you literally walked by your mom and cousin convince you.
Yeah. Which is maybe good, maybe sometimes I try to just block too much, you want to be well prepared, but beyond that, you kind of have to like go on with your regular life. And then, once, because you can get yourself really worked up if you think too much about it.
100%. So did they pick out those songs for you then, Earl, or did you have them picked out?
No, I picked them out. Yeah.
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 So tell us a little bit about the experience of Canadian Idol, because I I watched all the clips over the last couple of days, and I'm like, man, it's kind of a cheesy show, but
Yeah, it most
talent,
definitely is.
but the talent's real. All right, when you get on and start singing, like you're like, man, got a voice. Man, you got
Yeah.
some personality, right? Like you had some flavor there. It was cool to watch. It bring back memories because I remember watching. I could safely say I don't know if I ever watched another Canadian. Well, that was the last season. I don't know if I watched a
Yeah.
season prior to that. Maybe the first, maybe. But that season, I remember
Yeah.
everybody watching, mainly because of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you said, like there is something kind of cheesy about those shows. And there's a part of me that likes them. They're pretty heartwarming. You'll watch some of the new ones and they're pretty heartwarming and a lot of talent and stuff like that. But they also breed kind of this sort of get in, get out type of mentality where you're famous for 15 minutes and then they're on to the next thing. And like I actually heard Keith Richards talking about it a little bit, and it made a lot of sense to me how it's just it's like a 15 minutes of fame thing instead of an actual career. And that's, I would say, the only kind of qualm I have with those shows is it's kind of, instead of it, getting to know the person, like you get to know it, but it just seems like it's a bit of a cycle through, and they're not cultivating careers the same way as they used to back in the day. And it can be kind of I'm kind of glad that I ended up where I was, what place, and kind of that it's been 11, 12 years or whatever, because now, my music and stuff is about what I'm doing now. And most people don't even know I was ever on that show. And I would prefer it that way, because then it's just like you can focus on what's happening in front of you. It's not always about this thing, you know? And, but that being said, you know, it was a life-changing experience, most definitely. And it was like really fun. And, you know, like just like insane roller coaster. Like I had the runs for like 2 straight weeks when I first got there, because I was so worked up, you know?
Well, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, like, but it was, like I said, it was super, super fun. It was, every day was like unbelievable, you know, still hard. Like, as you're going through that experience, you like, really, it's hard to comprehend even. You're like, is this actually happening, you know?
Like,
And, you know,
what's one of the days when you look back, Earl, that you go like, I walked in and I was like, like, what am I doing here?
well, I would say after I made it into like when I made it from the first 200 to the 24, that was quite trippy. And then when I made it to the top 10, I was like, wow, this is for real. Like, this is pretty nuts. And then I remember just coming off stage a couple times and just being like, or like, I remember the one time they're like, Ben's talking up over there in the kind of the bleachers and stuff. And they're like, and back. And, you know, and they're giving me the 10-9. And I see like the whole crowd, and I'm just sitting there on a stool with my guitar, and there's like lights and videos, cameras swooming in from angles. And you're just like, and then, like I said, by the time you start, you're done. And you're like when they would talk to me after the performances, like I literally don't remember any of that. Like I was just like, you know, you're just in this other world. It's insane.
Just on a emotional high.
Yeah, just like a terror too, like a fear of, but you know, like, and because it could be so easy just to completely freeze and forget everything.
Yeah.
Which I did early on in the top 24 or something like that. Like, I completely forgot the song I was going to do. I thought I was off the show for sure. Like, the fact that they let me go on was insane, because I didn't even perform that time. I like froze and forgot the entire song.
How was that defeating on you? Like when you froze, like were you going, oh man, that was tough? Or did you bounce back real quick?
Well, I just thought I was going to be off the show. That I just thought I was done. And then when they said I was going through, I was like, holy shit. And then I just kind of let it be what it was and just kind of continued on. So, and it was cool, you know, got to go, like, you know, it was fun. Got to meet some interesting people. I'd say Tom Jones is my favorite guy to meet. You know, got to go to a couple parties at the MTV or the Much Music building, and
oh, Much Music.
It was pretty cool.
There's a throwback.
Like one time, I'll tell you one story that was pretty bizarre was I was out on I was at this party, and I'm out on like the patio, like, or it's like a high rise building, and I'm out on what do they call it, like the patio or whatever, like outside,
like the balcony.
And the balcony, yeah. And I'm out there with because I got pretty chummy with Ben Mulrooney there, because, you know, he's a fun dude. He's pretty easygoing, and I met like his family and stuff. And I was out on the balcony with his younger sister sharing a cigarette. And then by the end of the cigarette, his entire family was out there with me, and she's like trying to hide the cigarette and pass it to me behind her arms. And here I'm out on this balcony with the entire Mulrooney family, Brian included, and the wife too. So that was pretty trippy.
Did you ever feel like, man, like, what am I doing here?
Like, the sad thing is I kind of expected it to keep going and going, you know?
I don't know if
Like
that's a sad thing.
no, but it was like, for me, it was like, okay, this is the first stepping stone. I'm going to be Drake by the time this is finished, you know? That's how my mind was thinking. So when it all kind of just like, you know, after you realize that the show, what it is a show, you know what I mean? Like if you can do something with the show afterwards, like to your own accord, you know, like if you have the wits to organize it and capitalize on it, well, that's great, but no one's going to help you after, you know what I mean? Like the show is a show and that's it, kind of thing. So, but in my mind, I was like, hey, this is the first stepping stone, then I'm going to be doing this and this and this, and, you know, but it is what it is, you know. That might have been a pretty hard life in a weird way too, because look at everyone. I'm sure I would have been cancel cultured by now. Sure, I've done something stupid in my life that people are like, oh, he did that 20 years ago. Not listening to him anymore.
Oh, most deaf.
Yeah. So I don't necessarily regret that didn't happen, but it is what it is. And I still keep busy, and I'm, you know, still play a lot of, like before I came out here, I was hosting an open mic in Calgary and playing, you know, 3 or 4 gigs a month, 2 on top of that. Like every week I hosted the open mic, and then I'd have another gig at least every week. So it was pretty good.
So what are you doing? So like after the show ends, what did you do? Where did you go?
Well, I went to Toronto after that. I came back home for a bit and then moved back to Toronto. And I was there for a year. I made an album there. But it ended up, I wasn't particularly happy with the production of it. And
how so?
And it also just sounded a little, I don't know, I was looking for something a little more organic. And I guess people don't know what you think you're capable of in your mind. They can only see what you've produced at that point. And like, I wanted to keep saying, like, I was like, oh, I think we need to sing this song better, this and that. And, you know, and this needs to be more cohesive and stuff, but it was under a time frame. And it also cost me like cost like $20,000 too. So if that, like, that really put a kind of a negative spin in a way to me, like not making it too eager I wasn't very eager to record another album when, you know, it didn't turn out the way I wanted and it costed a bunch of money.
You were starting to see the business side of music then.
Yeah, a little bit. And kind of got, you know, the relationship with the guys who produced it didn't really end that well. It was okay, but like the one guy, like I had this $2,000 1952 Fender Telecaster like reissue. It was built the same way as they did in the 50s there. And yeah, he like stole that from me and stuff because he figured that the $20,000 wasn't enough kind of thing. And just like, and the only reason he took it was because I left it at the studio, and then I went back home for a bit, and I was going to come back and get it, not thinking. Then he decided, oh, he's going to put it with his guitar collection. So it's kind of like, well, you know, kind of left me with a, like, I don't know.
How can you possibly work with somebody like that afterwards? Like, I mean, you can't.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You're lucky you didn't take one of his guitars of his own and maybe break it over said person.
Believe me, I've thought about going to Kitchener with a mask and sneaking in his back window.
Well, I mean, that's
just to steal my guitar back. That's all. Not to beat him up or anything.
Oh, that would leave a sour taste in anyone's mouth.
Yeah. And
so what do you do after Toronto then? You record an album. I assume you think this is going to be maybe a smashing success. Maybe you don't. I don't know. What was your thought process after the album's released and you've spent $20,000? Was there
well like and I almost taste it being what I wanted it to be, you know? But it just didn't pan out. Like, there was aspects of it that I was like, that's what I'm looking for. But the whole thing as a whole, just, there's one song that I like on it, really. Like, I like the songs, I like the compositions, and I like the lyrics and everything, but just the way they're produced. There's only one song that I was happy with the way it turned out on it. But yeah, so did that. And then, you know, I didn't have a manager or anything like that. Like, in retrospect, maybe I should have moved. Like, and the reality is, it's like, if you're not in Nashville, LA, Toronto, possibly Vancouver, or really good at marketing yourself on social media and stuff like that, then, you know, you don't really have that much of a chance, really, you know what I mean? Like, to get that kind of support that you need to make a career out of it. But the one scene I really do like and love and get a lot of, like, would be where I would perform and kind of exist if I could, is like all the festivals, you know, like they'll like the electronic festivals and also the folk festivals and stuff like that. Like, I love the energy at those type of events. And there, you know, and it's for people that are genuinely there to see live music and get excited about it. It's not just a kind of, you know, a lot of modern music's almost like it's a lot about, you know, image, and it's a lot about how flashy your production is and how flashy your video. And it's like, how much of it's about actually getting something that really connects with you musically. It's kind of, you know, it's kind of a big rat race of kind of egos in a way, instead of quality music. So I like which I've been a part of, is these festivals and stuff like that. That's where I, you know, like, I've been playing the bars and stuff like that throughout the year. And then in the summer, I usually have about 4 different festivals that I'm playing. That's where, you know, that's the part I really, really like as far as performing in that.
Well, you speak of a time of music probably going back 40 to 50 years ago, maybe longer.
Yeah.
Is what you're talking about. You mentioned Neil Young off the hop a while back when you first. I mean, Neil Young wasn't having a music video with half-naked girls and whatever else. He just
throwing
had
money around.
That's right. He just had songs that hit you, grabbed you. And there's, I mean,
yeah, exactly.
You could mention about, well, a bunch come to mind, but you could probably mention a handful of people from that time era, or maybe even the majority of them from that era, where that's what it was about. They had really cool sound and cool voices and twangs to the way they sang that wasn't computer generated.
Well, that's the thing these days, is everyone's like, people have no idea the kind of work that goes behind, like, a lot of these songs. Like people think auto-tune is only when you can hear it go kind of, you know, like crazy noises, but like, they're so good at auto-tune and like compressing and pushing your vocals forward and stuff like that now, that like, you would hear something, they'll hit a note and it doesn't sound auto-tuned, but they're like pitch shifting that note and everything. Like, people don't realize the trickery that goes into like these, you know, big production, you know, high money production music, which it is what it is, but it's kind of hilarious that people don't realize that. They just think, oh, they that's how they sing. And you're like, well, they do kind of, but I don't know. But that being said, there's still a lot of modern musicians I really like that, you know, are doing incredible work. It's just, it's kind of harder to find them in a weird way.
Who's the modern musicians that you enjoy?
Well, I love a guy named Father John Misty. Do you know him?
I certainly don't, but I'm going to certainly look him up after we get done.
He's a really cool guy. Do you know Coulter Wall?
Oh yeah, Coulter Wall is
so
my
good.
jam.
That kid is off the hook, eh?
It's the first time I got shown a video of him, Earl, I was sitting out at work with the boys out north of North Battleford, and they said they were playing a song, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty good.
Sick.
Who is this? Is this Johnny Cash or somebody like that? And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, you
Someone
haven't heard of you haven't heard of Coulter Wall? And I'm like, no, who's that? He's Brad Wall's kid. I'm like, okay. So then they're like, hold on. We'll pull up a video and you watch this. I'm like, okay. So pull up the video and it's him playing the guitar, and I'm like, okay. And all of a sudden he starts singing, and your like mouth like hits the floor because you're like, how is that guy singing like that?
I know. He's like a 21-year-old skinny kid. You're like,
and sounds almost identical to Johnny Cash. That's the comparison I think most people give him.
Yeah, just an incredibly colorful voice, you know. And his songwriting is the best too. Like, it's insane. Like, he must love people like, do you know who Townes Van Sant is?
Yeah, I do, actually.
You know, like that must be one of the people in the forefront of his mind, you know, is these amazing musicians, like kind of cowboy songwriters, you know. It's more like sitting around the fire on the range with the horses than it is like modern country, you know. It's kind of that cowboy traveling.
It's a throwback is what it is, because I mean, like the modern country is almost poppy, right?
Oh,
like it almost sounds like it's a pop song, where what he's doing, you know, I sometimes wonder if he'll become a global superstar or not, because what he's doing is
so
unique.
Kind of unique.
Yeah. And like, I just can't see everybody being like, wow, I love going back to like, there's people that enjoy that type of music. Now there's a lot of people that enjoy that type of music, but you know, when was the last time you had somebody of his talent, that style of music, go mainstream?
It's kind of weird. Do you know Sturgill Simpson?
Sturgill Simpson.
He's like a country singer, a modern. He's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah.
Chris Stapleton's got a hell of a voice.
Yeah, Chris Stapleton's got a hell of a voice.
There's a kid I've been listening to lately, Evan Barlow. He's really cool, but he's more of like almost like a rapper in a way. I wouldn't say, he's pretty variety, almost like R&B, bit of rap, and almost a bit of like, but he's a hell of it. He's really impressed me lately. I've been listening to him. Then I like, more some R&B kind of stuff, like Frank Ocean. Do you know him at all?
Can't say I know Frank Ocean. You're going to give me, you know what I'm going to do today when I go to work? I'm going to have like 10 different people I'm going to have to throw on the playlist, and I'd love listening to new music. It's fantastic.
Yeah, for sure.
Never know what you're gonna find.
Right. Yeah, I have a really wide variety of music I like, so I might say someone that someone would like, and then someone else that they definitely wouldn't. But I don't really look at music in a genre in genres more than it's like you can hear it in their voice if there's something of substance, you know, and there's the song, the words hit you. They don't just fall off the side like they don't mean anything. They like hit you, and like you get a strong imagery or a real impact from it. So whenever that happens to me. It doesn't matter what genre, or anything. It's just either it happens or it doesn't.
Well, what it reminds me of is a shout out to Skinny's tattoo parlor in town. I only have one tattoo, and when I got my first tattoo, he said, well, we're going to listen to some music. Since it's your first tattoo, why don't you pick the first song? And so I picked Neil Young, Harvest Moon. And from there, we just went on this like journey of music and stuff I'd never heard that he introduced me to, but all over the map. And then stuff that I liked. And that's what's lovely about music, I think, is people shouldn't get stuck into one genre, right? If you like rap, that's cool.
Right.
There's some good rap songs out there. There's nothing against it. But at the same time, if you go to the throwbacks, man, there's some great. We just at a buddy's house down south, and and we were listening to a little CCR, and it like that's.
Oh yeah.
But I can flip over right away over to a little Eminem or something, right? Just to bounce all over
Sure,
the
why
place,
not?
right? Why
Yeah.
not? It's all about your
Like I
mood
said,
too.
it comes down to there's the spirit behind the music, and that's what matters. Like sometimes you can, with some of those cookie cutter songs, I can almost, instead of getting an image of whatever their story is, I get an image of 4 songwriters in a studio room trying to crap out another song just for the sake of doing it. There's not really that much emotion behind it.
My wife makes fun of me all the time, Earl, because I hardly ever listen to the words. I love the sound of the music, so the beat you give me,
Yeah.
and the voice. Those 2 things,
Yeah.
and half the time they can sing about whatever. Could be walking your
Yeah.
dog for all I care, and
Yeah.
just the personality or the effort that goes into music. I always think of Sam Roberts when he came to Lloyd, and he was out
Yeah.
singing
I
in the
remember that.
rain. He was unbelievable.
Yeah. I remember that. That was cool.
But I don't know. Truthfully, I still don't know what the heck he was singing about at the time, and I don't know if I really cared. Just the way he sang and the way he performed was unbelievable.
And like you said, for me, it doesn't really matter. It's the full package. Like there's times that I like, it just literally doesn't matter. Like either the words will catch me, the melody will, something about it, but it's just a matter of it catching you or not. So I feel that sentiment too. It's not always the words, but yet for me, sometimes it is the words. I don't know.
True. Sometimes
But
it
it's
is
got to be that
too.
whole kind of package. Is that, like when you listen to Coulter Wall there, everything about it is just like thumbs up. You know what I mean? Like the voice, the lyrics are cool as hell. It's got this kind of badass vibe to it. Kind of like, it's super cool. It's kind of, and I love something like the blues too for that reason. It's simple, but, the voices are incredible. It's just the color in it is amazing.
So in your travels, it's been 12 years since Canadian Idol. Where you mentioned Toronto, I think you mentioned Vancouver. You've kind of been all over the place. Have you been singing ever since then? For the last 12 years, you've been performing?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like, so I lived in Toronto. I lived in Vancouver. My friend owns a hostel in Hawaii, in Paia. So I've been there 4 different times throughout the winter and stayed there for 3 months at a time. And I'd play there. I'd perform there. Calgary is where I am now, and I've been there for like 3-4 years
So
and been
are
playing pretty
you
regular there.
are you just performing and that's how you make a living, or are you working a full-time job, or what do you do to make ends meet?
Um, Kind of a jack of all trades to some degree. Like, I'll work with my friend Adam painting houses in Lloyd sometimes. I built a hemp house with Mark Faber.
Know the name, can't think of the face right now.
Well, he's big into this company called Just Biofiber, and I went out to Souk, BC with them for 3 months and built this house out of hemp. It was really cool.
Built a house out of hemp?
Yeah, it's like they look like Lego blocks basically, like
Yeah.
the kind of 8 peg Lego blocks, and you lay them like bricks, but you lay them like bricks and they kind of click in, and then you plaster them and fill, like there's this kind of fibery kind of goop that you put in between them to like seal them, and then you like plaster them and you can stucco it on the outside or whatever. And yeah, they're really, really cool. It's a really cool idea. It's an amazing idea and just as productive and like as cheap as doing a normal traditional house. It's just the problem is like trying to get that idea across to people and get that sort of concept into the zeitgeist of building, you know, because they're putting their money into it. They don't want anything to go wrong. So the people have the tendency to follow tradition when it comes to that kind of thing, because it makes it easier to sell, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is it's a great building it's a great way to build, and it just needs to be kind of massaged into society a little more before it might take wave.
So you build the walls with hemp. Is it supposed to be just strong, sturdy, both? Cost effective?
It's like has insane like insulating quality.
Yeah.
Like it's also fireproof. Super good for sound. It's like soundproof too, because they're like this thick. It's good for like, and it also cures over time, so it produces like oxygen, and like it absorbs CO2 out of the air and produces oxygen. And it's
really,
and it's yeah, because it's curing, like the hemp's curing, so it absorbs CO2 from the air, and it takes like 50 years to cure or something like that. And it's like I said, it's fireproof too. So and it's also like fast too, because you're skipping so many steps. There's like little cavities in them, so you can run your wire through those. Then you just like drill little, like with a router or whatever you drill, like, and so you put the bricks down, and then basically you plaster the inside and stucco the outside, and then you're pretty well done, instead of framing the wall, the insulation, the vapor barrier, the drywall, the mudding, the taping, the painting, like the vinyl on the outside, the plywood, So it's pretty cool.
So since essentially what I'm getting at here, well, not getting at, I mean, we're having lessons 101 with Earl on building houses, but since 2008, you've been experiencing life, is what I hear.
You could say that, yeah. I think that's safe to say.
Where
I don't have $1 million yet, but
hey man, I don't have $1 million yet either. So we're in the same boat there, and I don't know what I'd do if I got $1 million. Probably the same thing I'm doing right now. So
yeah,
I'd just probably look a little. I'd probably have a front tooth, maybe. That's probably, everybody would probably be happy because I'd have a full smile. But
I kind of like the hockey.
It's funny.
Goon look.
every 9 out of 10 people are like, man, it's just you. And then there's always the 10th person who's like, you really need to get some teeth. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's you. I guess.
Yeah. I like it right? Personally, but
where's the, sticking with music, where has been the coolest place or the one performance that you look back since Canadian Idol? So over the last 12 years where you're playing in wherever and you're just like, man, that was a lot of fun.
That was so fun. Yeah. I would say the festivals have been the funnest for me. Like, it's fun because I have a lot of friends in the electronic music festival scene. So, and I love the energy there. It's like young, youthful, excited, ready to rock kind of vibes, Like, there's been a couple really fun ones, like my buddy Baron. Do you know Baron Faber?
Once again,
he graduated same year as me.
Once again, I know the last name, and I can't put a face to
it. Well, he lives in Calgary too, and he started this company called Bass Bus, and it's kind of like a event coordinating business. And he also gets involved. He throws a huge festival in Calgary every year called Circle. And I've played that a few times. That's been a blast. That's been a hell of a time. Then there's this one, Wicked Woods. It's called Wicked Woods, and I play that.
And where's that
most years? That's in Radium Hot Springs.
Oh, okay.
And those have been really fun. What else? I would say those festivals have been where I've got the most. I've had a lot of fun, and I'd love to keep doing more and more of those.
Um,
I'm playing. I was supposed to play the summer games there in Lloyd, closing ceremonies or whatever this year, but because of Corona or whatever, I'll be doing it next year there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about recording a new album and anything along that lines, or?
Absolutely. Well, like I said, it's always been kind of a money issue for me. But another place that's been a lot of fun to play is a place called the Blues Can in Calgary.
Okay.
And I play there with my band. Like, all my bandmates are really good musicians. So that's been really fun. The one day I was playing there, and this guy named Steve Gerard, a really cool dude, he's recorded a lot of people that are on CKUA and stuff. He just was watching us, and he said, like, just before I left, we had a few recording sessions with him. He wants to record like a high quality demo at least here. So when I get back, we'll probably be doing that. And he's not charging me anything, so it's pretty nice of him. He just was excited. That's what you need, is someone who believes in you and thinks they can, and if it was a great success, something like that, well then, then the payoff would be then, but someone needs to believe in you in that degree, because
I think with that right there, what that is transferable across anything. In order to be successful at whether you're a musician or a hockey player, you have to have somebody who believes in you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a powerful thing, to have someone's belief in what you do. It that can motivate you pretty good, and it can open up some doors, and it can give you almost wings to go after it.
Absolutely. It also kind of, gets all the ugliness out of the environment, because if you're always thinking about, oh, I better do this try because there's money on the table. Well, how authentic, it could work, but sometimes that just takes away from the kind of, ideally you want like an energy, like a fun either whatever atmosphere you want to create. You want to create that, not being like worried about money in the head, you want there to be some like body energy in what's happening, and with him kind of just saying, give it a shot, gives you the freedom to, try, like, obviously you want to work smart and not waste people's time, but yet, it doesn't, all of a sudden it's not just about money or something like that. So that's a nice feeling. And I record with my friend Rich in Lloyd quite a bit. Like, I have a band camp. It's called Earl Stevenson at bandcamp.com. And I have music on that.
Well,
so the listeners could go check that out if they want.
Absolutely. I was going to say, if there's a way for people to find you and find new music of you or help support what you're doing, how would they do that?
Like I said, I would say Earl Stevenson at bandcamp.com is the best. And lately I've been posting a lot of music on Facebook, just sort of because I haven't been able to perform and stuff. And it seems like the way people are getting their music out there to some degree nowadays. So,
well, you're on the same playing field pretty much as everyone right now, because everybody's stuck at home, right? So even the people with all the money in the world, somewhat, are stuck where they can't perform in front of large crowds. They can't do any of that. So they're stuck trying to figure this out too. And I think it's interesting to watch everybody try and figure it out, because that's what the most successful in any industry right now are all trying to do, because they just can't do what worked for them before, right? Like they're sitting at home going like, so now what do I do?
Yeah, I know. I said, I hope it's not like this forever.
I can't see it being like this forever. I think
No.
you're already starting to see the world try and pull itself out of this because we
Yeah.
all know we can't stay like this forever. It's
Insane. Yeah.
people need to be out and moving and interacting, and if businesses need to have their doors open, otherwise they're all going to be closed, and pretty soon we're all going to rely on the government to hand out whatever they can, and that only can
Yeah.
last for so long. And geez, you go down that rabbit hole too far.
Yeah, I know, eh? Yeah, it's been quite the experience for all of us, I would say.
Absolutely. So what is next here? Before I get on to the final segment, what is next then? You're trying to get home, and once you're home, it's back to hopefully doing a little bit of music again.
Yeah, that's the plan. Like I said, I'm my main prerogative is, getting back with Steve Gerrard there and my band and try to get, whatever we can, hopefully 12 songs kind of that we're happy with recorded. And then, a lot can open up for you after that. And plus my friend Conrad wants to do a music video too. So I'd like to at least get one song I'm ecstatic about and then maybe make a music video too. So
Cool. Well,
that's the plan there mainly.
you make sure when you create whatever song you got, I'd love to promote it for you or toss it on here because I'd love to enter to Mr. Earl Stevenson breaking it down for me. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Absolutely, that'd be fun.
Okay, well, let's go into the final segment, the Crude Master Final Five. It's just 5 questions, long or short as you like. Shout out to Heath and Tracy McDonald, sponsors and supporters of the podcast since day one. So the first one is, if you could sit down with a beverage with anyone, current or past, who would you want to sit down with and pick their brain?
I think I'd like to have you still there?
I'm still here.
I think I'd like to have a White Russian with Nikola Tesla.
That'd be pretty cool. I like your drink choice too. I tell you what, when you come back here, we're going to be in the podcast room. We're going to have some White Russians. That is a promise.
That sounds good. Right on.
Tesla, yeah, that'd be an interesting conversation.
Because he's a bizarre dude. Like he I don't know, like became a recluse and like basically lived in a New York hotel for the last 40 years by himself and didn't really have much money. And his best friend was a pigeon. But yet, meanwhile, meanwhile he thinks that aliens are talking to him. And that all being said, this sounds like the Diary of a Madman, but yet he was one of the most innovative thinkers that ever existed. So you're like, well, what's going on there, dude?
Absolutely. Do you read it all then, Earl? Are you a guy who picks up lots of books or?
Well, I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Oh yeah, audio. Yeah.
Like I'm more into like philosophy and things like that than like, than fiction or whatever.
So what is the book?
You wouldn't catch me reading a fiction book generally,
So what is the book you're reading right now then, or listening to?
Well, I like a lot of do you know who Eckhart Tolle is?
I know the name. What's his books?
Like The Power of Now and A New Earth and stuff. It's just basically, it's a modern approach to sort of Buddhism and Taoism and sort of mindfulness, or, like kind of saying all you have is the present moment, don't be possessed by your mind that kind of philosophy. It's nothing new, but he breaks it down in a very intellectual, very clear cut, very comprehensible way, which I really appreciate. He's a very cool dude. Then I like weird stuff like Carlos Castaneda, he was a anthropologist who they were supposed to write about, like, sort of, I don't remember exactly, but he was from San Diego or something. He was going down to Mexico, and he said that he met this guy named Don Juan, and he was like this like medicine man from Mexico, and he taught him all these crazy things, and he would do peyote with them and do all this crazy stuff, and like it really bizarre out there stuff, like everything, almost to the point that it's just kind of, it's wild, but it's really cool. And it turned out that he was a little nutty, and maybe there's a bit of like dark wizardry in there, but it's kind of entertaining. It's fun. Anything that's kind of not what the eye can see, something beyond our perception. I'm pretty into that kind of thing.
If you could open for one band or performer, who would you like to sit in front of and break it down for?
Like, and they have to be alive or dead, or does it matter?
Oh, no, it could be anyone. I'll give you anyone.
Sure. Well, I guess, I'd like to open for someone like Coulter Wall, just because it'd be fun to have a comrade. I could say some epic legend from beyond the grave, but maybe it'd be nice to have a comrade in someone like that, which is cool because he's a Saskatchewan kid, come from the same sort of world. Be fun to make friends with some guy like that.
That'd be a cool concert too.
Yeah.
If you could perform in one place, where would you go?
Another musician I really like too is Lucas Nelson. It's Willie Nelson's son.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's super cool. He's really good at guitar too. He sounds like his dad, but it's got a little more of a surf rock to it. I seen him perform in Charlie's Bar in Paia in Hawaii, which is really cool.
Yeah.
It was wild because I watched Neil Young perform there too, and it's only a bar the size of like OJ's.
You watched Neil Young perform there?
Yeah. Dude, I'll tell you a wild story. So I watched Neil Young that night perform in a bar about the size of OJ's and Lloyd. And then the next day, like my friend, the owner of the hostel, said that he managed to get backstage, and he overheard the manager saying they're staying at Mama's Fish House. It's like 3 kilometers down the road. So the next morning, I skateboarded to Mama's Fish House, hid my skateboard in the bushes, and to get into the resort, you have to sneak through the kitchen. And I snuck through the kitchen, and then I got to this top of this hill, and there was only 2 people on the beach, and it was Neil Young and Daryl Hannah.
No kidding. Did you go talk to him?
Oh yeah, man. I was like, my heart was just like, and then I went and I walked down the beach pretending not to see him, and they were just sitting there. And then when I got to them, I was like, "Hey, Neil," and he looked over, and I shook his hand, and then I sat there with him for about 10 minutes.
And what did you ask him about?
I just told him I was from the prairies like him, and I'm a huge fan, and just sort of, you had a good show last night. I didn't get through the door, but we watched it through the screen kind of thing, and told him I'm a musician too, and just a little bit of, I didn't want to overstay my welcome, obviously, and I didn't want to ask for a photo or anything. I just thought it was nice. It was a fun experience. That's all I was asking for, just to have but it was wild, man. I was sitting, here's me just sitting there, like no one around. Like, that's insane.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And here's one of my heroes too. So it's pretty bizarre. You know what I mean? Hawaii has a certain magic to it like that. Yeah.
So if you
maybe like the Grand Ole Opry or something in Nashville would be pretty cool.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Would you go back? My next question is, if you could go back and see one performance, who would you go see? Would you go back and see Neil Young then?
Nah, I think I'd have to go see Hendrix.
Ooh. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Because he was just like, it was like he was being possessed or something when he was up there, And it's funny because he was kind of a timid, shy guy in many ways. And then he gets up on stage and it just like Is
Comes
he
out.
being possessed like by a voodoo doctor right now? Like, I don't know what's going on, but this is sick. You know?
In your travels, you've been all over the place. When you finally get back to Canada and things go back to somewhat normal, where will you be off to next? Where's your next bucket list trip? Where do you want to go?
Like I would like to eventually go. I think South America would be pretty cool. Yeah, like I don't know, Colombia might be pretty cool to check out, I think.
That's an interesting choice.
Yeah. It looks really beautiful. And the girls are pretty cute.
On a side note, what have you been drinking the entire time? What type of beer? I see the snub.
This is a San Miguel.
A San Miguel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks rather tasty.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, beer isn't as cheap as I'd like it to be out here, but
Well, what's a beer cost out there?
well, they're all nice and cold, and but you can only buy singles here. You don't buy them in cases.
So what's a single worth?
It's worth about $2.50.
Canadian? American?
Yeah,
Canadian,
yeah.
$2.50 still not that terrible of a deal.
Not too bad. Maybe $2.80, somewhere around there. Yeah, it's not too bad. But in Cambodia, they're like 50 cents.
Yeah. You could have stayed
which was
there
pretty
a
sweet.
while longer.
Yeah, well, I was kind of planning on going back there. Like, I was kind of only planning on coming here for a couple weeks and then maybe going back there for a little bit. But
Well, cool. Well, I appreciate you hopping on with me and talking a little bit about your career, talking about being over in Indonesia and what life is, where you're at in life. And I think it's super cool conversation we just had, like on two
absolutely, that was
sides of
fun.
the world. Like next time you're back in Lloyd, you make sure to drop me a line. I'll show you the studio. We'll have you in and do another BS sesh.
Sounds fun. Hey, do you want me to play a song for you before I go?
Oh, frig, yeah. You'll be your episode like 93, you're the first person to ever sing on here or do a Steve Urkel impression. So fire away.
Nice. Right on. Okay, this is a new one I wrote actually probably a couple weeks ago. It's called Where It All Goes. Show me your heart and I won't let go. I love it when we're dancing, when we make love slow. Tell the tale about a life worth making. Sing a song about a chance worth taking. Where it all goes, nobody knows. We got a big old world to keep us on our toes. Where it all goes, we ain't got nothing to hide. There's a walking down the road to the other side. Show me all the things that drive you wild. You got me giddy, darling, like a newborn child. It's a gamble, baby, but we're on the road. Like a warm Sunday, I got you in my soul. Where it all goes, nobody knows. We got a big old world to keep us on our toes. Where it all goes, we ain't got nothing to hide. There's a walking down the road to the other side. We can paint a picture like a love so real. Every shade and color, how it makes you feel. Grab the brush, baby, and lose control. When you put a heart around it and you make it whole. Where it all goes, nobody knows. We got a big old world to keep us on our toes. Where it all goes, we ain't got nothing to hide. There's a walking down the road to the other side. There's a walking down the road to the other side. Did it cut out?
No, man, that was super cool.
Right on, buddy.
The video shut off for a quick sec, but that was super cool.
Cool, dude. Yeah, thanks again for having me on. That was a blast. First experience.
That's
podcast cherry.
I tell you what, that's one way to end a podcast right there.
Right on, buddy.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Shawn.
Hey, folks, thanks again for joining us today. If you just stumble on the show and like what you hear, please click subscribe. Remember, every Monday and Wednesday, a new guest will be sitting down to share their story. The Shawn Newman podcast is available for free on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you find your podcast fix. Until next time.